Hey everybody, welcome to the new episode of In Love with the Process. This is actually a continuation from the last episode with my special guest Lance Williams and assistant Dave here with me. We have enough to talk about today that I figure why not just break it into two. If you haven't listened to the previous episode, I would stop right now and go back and listen to it because you may be lost and I don't want to lose you because I love you guys. And you're really important to who I am as a director and, making my life meaningful. That's really depressing.
It started really sweet, and then it got really sad really quickly.
So anyway, let's just get right back into it. So we have been talking about my latest film project, title of which I cannot tell you yet. But Lance was on set helping us out, and Dave was on set for the piece. And I just want to give a lot of the young filmmakers out there just sort of an insight into how I put these things together and where they go. And I don't call them. It is a proof of concept film. That's what they call them in the industry. It's the best way to introduce your style, your vision to the folks that will hopefully one day finance your films. And it's the best way to take an idea and have as many people on the same page with you when you're trying to pitch it and trying to make it as a feature. Okay, so that being said, let's see here. What do you find? Let me just ask you a couple questions because you saw me doing. This is Dave. You saw me doing the prep for this film.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any questions for me on how anything was pulled together? Let's sort of throw it.
I remember you talked about this a little bit in the last one, but when you guys were writing the script, I was on a Bose shoot, and you showed me the script, and it was like months later we're back on set. So I was kind of there for a lot of it, or at least in and out. But it was cool. I mean, it just felt kind of like rallying the troops and, reaching out to a bunch of people. And it felt on set like a lot of friends, which was cool because it was a totally, totally comfortable set. Everyone was working and you could feel like that there was a connection that everyone had. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, it's very important that, like as a creator, I need to have folks around me that I actually want to spend 15 hours with, and folks around me that inspire and really make the projects what they are. Because I think a lot of the time as a director, you get a lot of credit for work that other people are doing for you. And it's just, it's really important that I have those folks around to cover my ass when I don't know what the fuck to do, but also to be there as to just inspire the work and help support stuff. And for me, if you work for me and you do a great job, then you're in the club and you're always going to have an offer to be on whatever shoot that I have. So anyway, let's talk about one of the most important parts. So the last episode I talked about getting the cast and crew lined up. We talked about Jean. My rest of my cast on this piece, amazing actress Shay Whitehead. I had not worked with her before, and I actually found her through Instagram, believe it or not, because I've done enough casting sessions in this city. I think one of the things that Boston has trouble with is retaining its great talent. I think a lot of the actors, once they get a good position, they have to go to New York or Los Angeles. And I agree with that because they have to be where the work is. As an actor, it feels like you're completely reliant upon having a show up, reliant upon having directors that want to hire you. And I think that being in any other city than the cities that have the big agents is probably a mistake for an actor. So that being said, it's always a tough thing for me when I'm casting, especially if I'm casting for roles that I don't already have friend actors that I've worked with that I could just slot into those positions. And I had done quite a few casting sessions in this city looking for mothers, quote unquote, like a mom, for other commercials and stuff. And there's great talent in the city, but there wasn't that specific look that I was going for this, which is that sort of classic Hitchcockian leading lady. And I had found Shay through Instagram, and I saw a couple of clips from performances that she had done, and they were fantastic. And she just had the right look, and it was great. And she's done fantastic work on a bunch of indies, and I think this was the largest piece that she had worked with any director on. And it's quite I'm sure it must be quite a thing to walk onto a set and see like a crew of like 40 fucking people and then try to do what it is that you do in front of that stuff.
Because there's so many variables to that. I mean, you have your performance that you want to bring, you have this relationship with the director, hopefully by that point, but then you're right, you get there, and let's say if it's especially an emotionally charged moment, you have to be vulnerable for the people who, one, gave you the job, so that's okay already. But now there's like at least at minimum 10 other people you don't know just staring at you crying and staring at you trying to deliver these lines, and you have to know how to break away from that. So when you first hit the door, yeah, like it's absolutely something that crosses your mind as an actor. Anybody that says otherwise is full of shit.
Yeah, I was concerned about it. She did such a fantastic job. I mean, because we had only met, I think we went and had beers, and then we did a couple rehearsal sessions prior to it, and then boom, she's thrown right into the mix of it. And I know that there are people out there that promise the world, and then you sort of show up and it's like two guys and a boom operator, you know what I mean? And you're in a basement, and you're trying to do your own makeup. Our
Mike,
shoot
did
is
that happen to you?
Yeah.
That's like, that was a very knowing story.
Yeah. Yes. For that one film I did years
I was
ago.
doing my makeup in the basement, 12 km, and now here we are on the podcast.
Dirty mattress, no shirt on. It was really weird. It was very uncomfortable.
It was art.
So I think she got thrown into like this crazy world that we create on set, and then she stepped up. She did a fantastic job. Worked with her, and then my other actress, Maggie. I'm a fucking piece of shit because I cannot pronounce your last name, Maggie. It is intense. I will get it right on the next podcast. I just never asked her, and it's one of those things. I'm such an asshole. I'm going to admit this. I'm such a fucking asshole when it comes to names. Like, literally, if I meet someone for the first time, my brain can't register names unless I say that name like 5 times. And I don't know what it is. I'm going to blame it on the head injury. I'm just going to come right out and say that it's...
Before that, I was really good with names.
I knew everybody's name.
I knew everybody.
I'm going to blame it on the head injury. I'm going to say, you know what, I can't remember names. But Maggie, she is fucking phenomenal in this movie. She came on board. I actually cast her through a casting agency, Slate Casting Agency here in Boston. And I needed to find a young babysitter.
And you worked with Slate on this. That's good. They're one of the newest casting agencies in the city, and they're making moves, man.
Aaron hooked us up.
Yeah,
he was really great, and we ended up seeing. Working with kids is always a fear of any filmmaker, and I've done it quite a few times on commercials. And I knew that I needed to find a young girl that could just on her face. Show fear and show anxiety. And so I only saw like 6 people. And Maggie was the last one to come in. And Maggie was actually a bit older than I thought that I wanted. But she came in and she just fucking turns it on, man. Like, when you guys finally see the short, you'll see she has this ability. She turns on these tears. And I just tease her when I see her on set. I'm like, you're a fucking great liar. Like, I would hate to be your older brother. Because you just like, and just start crying like immediately. She's fucking great at it.
Another thing too is that what she did with so many silent moments was powerful, because a lot of times we think that we can only act when we're talking or given some big action to do. But there's so much to be said in silence, and so much to be done with the eyes, and she sold it every single time.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when you're watching, you're like, what the fuck take are you gonna use? Because this is like all of it's good. Like, have fun in the edit, because Jesus, she's got so much to watch.
Yeah, and then it's weird how that progression happens, especially when you're getting in the edit room, because then when you're first rolling, and the first time you do it, you're just crossing your fingers going like, please be good. And then you see it and you go, oh shit, that was great. and it's like, okay. And then that stress level kind of goes down a bit because you have one in the can where you're like, all right, cool, do another one. Then she does another one like it. And you're like, oh shit, all right, well, let's do another one. And then she does something else that's completely different. You're like, oh fuck, this
That's
is really
also
great.
good.
This is really great. And so then you start to see it multiple times and you go, oh, how am I ever going to figure this out? And that's a longer story for the edit. And to sort of like tease that story. The thing that's interesting about cutting is that when you're on set, you have a plan. If you're a smart, responsible director, you do your homework. I'm gonna say that again. If you're a responsible director, you do your homework. So many directors that don't. Whether it's storyboarding, shot listing, you do your homework and you basically create a movie on page first, straight up. That way, when you pull all these people together, you know that if everybody worked 15 hours and everybody comes in tired, or you guys are all hungover, you can just fall back on the boards. You can fall back on the shot list and have a fucking movie shot. And so for me, I try to put all that stuff together. I do my boards. I do my shot lists. I work with David Cruda, the DP, for the shots, and I work with Vlad, who's my assistant director, on the day and the scheduling of it all. And we try to make sure that I get the pieces that I need to cut together a film. And that's really what the goal is on set, especially on something like this where you have like a 15-hour day. I have way too many fucking setups because that's the way I shoot. So we do like 30 setups in a day, which is like astronomical. And so everything is down to the wire. Everything's like boom, 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 completely scheduled. And I bang these things out. And then if I try to reserve I can only afford to reserve like 1 or 2 takes where we mix it up a little bit and we just try something different. Because then what happens when you get into the edit room is that you take this plan that you had on paper and then you start to deal with the realities of life. And all these realities are desperately trying to take your plan and throw it out. And you're actually falling back and relying upon all these weird alternate takes that you never thought were going to be what it is. And sometimes, like, I will see a scene that I had planned out, and because of, we couldn't use the same door, and we couldn't get the camera to move the right way, or we couldn't get this thing to happen, the tone disappears, and the only true thing in that raw footage for that scene is that weird take that happens. So then I start with that weird take, and then I build backwards off of that. So, be open. I guess the lesson there is that when you're shooting, have a fucking plan, and then be ready to get weird, strange variations on your plan, because in the edit room, your plan could fall apart. That was a little bit of a rant and rave on that.
No, Mike, Mike, continue. What were you saying? You were talking about editing.
I would imagine that in every podcast that we've done, rant or tirade has been said maybe 10 or less than 10 times.
you need like a dinger, like a little like the cinema sins, like just each time you're going ding.
Exactly, man. I
Which
don't know.
is good though. It's good stuff.
I just get like all of a sudden this blind fucking thing happens and I just start talking. Fuck. Whatever. It's good. It's good stuff. I think you guys learned something in there, so it's good shit. Let's talk about. What can we get into here? Bear with me, and you'll cut some of this stuff out. Let's talk about being on set, actually, because I don't know if we really sort of talked about that. We talked about crew. We did the casting. We got our crew together. For me, because I ended up producing most of my stuff, and I produced this film and directed this film, and you're always in this weird sort of headspace, because when you're prepping it as a director, you're like, okay, here's the shots I want, and it's really creative, and you're looking for inspirations. When you're pulling these things together, and you on paper you put together the movie that you really want to have done. And then you have to swap hats, and then you have to put on your producing hat. And you put on your producing hat, and you're like, all right, I got to cast, I got to get my crew. And then I got to find a fucking house. I got to figure out, the logistics. Like, how do I get props from an hour and a half away what kind of truck do I have to rent? How many people are needed to unload that truck? How many people are not needed to load that truck? And then the problem when you're producing and directing your own movie is that they start to bleed into each other. So as a producer, you start to understand the realities of what are happening, where it's like, oh shit, I can't get enough people to do this one shot. So then that shot starts to change, and then the game starts to change, which is good because, you know, in the real world, it's going to shape your movie and making it into a better thing. But it's this delicate balance of not letting one overtake the other, where as a producer, you're not really changing the theme and the overall of the movie because logistically you can't pull these fucking things off. And this piece was a big deal with the location. We ended up finding this, and Gina found this house after we had gone through a bunch of different location guides and a bunch of different stuff, and I couldn't find the right house for this movie. Gina had just gone out once again drinking with some friends, and went to this house, and she's like, I have this perfect place for you. And I was like,
I'm sorry, you said once again.
yeah. And I'm like, really? What's that? Of course, Gina would find all these places. And she's like, yeah, it's this house. It's a little woody, though. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? What does it mean it's a little woody? Like, what does wood mean? And she goes, well, it's just a house with a lot of wood in it. So I was like, what is it, like a lumberjack's house? Like, is there just stacks of fucking...
cabin?
Yeah. So we ended up going, and they had hardwood floors, and I was like, oh, woody, hardwood. Got it. But the place was fucking amazing. Like, the spot was built in like the mid 1800s, huge, with big rooms, and like it actually had like, you know, like still had like slave quarters upstairs, and like the whole kitchen. They had all that shit, which was really fucking cool. My original idea for this treatment was that it was sort of like an everyday family that lived in like an everyday kind of home that has stuff happen to them. But when I saw this house, I just couldn't say no to it, because it was, you walk in there, and I've said this before, it's like being in the hotel The Shining, or like being in like a Guillermo movie, where you're just like, fuck, you know.
There's something really tangible in that, you know, when you walk on the set and you're getting into your character, or to building out the character as the day goes on with different things. When you're in a literal setting versus being on a studio lot, you know, or a green room, there's something about that builds the world for you. It makes it even easier to slip into whatever this new psychosis is you have to develop.
Yeah. And then, you know, for me as a producer, I just was like, I cannot say no to this. And then at that point as a director, and I called up Will, the writer, and I'm like, we just got to change the script a little bit because this house is so fucking great. And I remember calling up the DP, and I was like, dude, the rooms are massive, and the fucking stairs, like I can literally on one stair side by side put 5 people on these stairs. I'm like, is this too big? Is this gonna look like shit? And he's like, we can always make, as a shooter, we can always make the room look smaller. Remember that? And I was like, oh, okay. And it makes sense, because now I can put dolly track down these halls, and now I can do all that. And I was laughing when we were doing some of the later takes where we have the sequence down a hallway where we laid dolly track, and people were still cramming around the dolly to get around. And I was like, there's never fucking enough room.
No. That's a really good point, because it's, for as big as it did feel, there were moments where you're like trying to figure out how to get the fuck out of the way or not be in the way. Mm-hmm. And you think about when we broke everything down, I'm like, how was this a problem a minute ago? This shit is massive.
Yeah. But when you guys finally see the film, you'll see that it feels pretty claustrophobic, and it still feels small, and there's a lot that can be done with your focal lengths and your lens choices, and then how you block out scenes and stuff like that. But one of the things I really liked about this house was that I was also able to set up, they have like this huge ballroom off to the left-hand side of the house, which we did like a massive craft sort of service area where we did all the food and all the table stuff. And then art department was also in there. We also had 2 other rooms, one that I could do like an entire video village, because on my movies, I like to have as many people come by and hang out as possible, because it's such a rare occasion that I actually put everything together and I have one of these sets. And anybody that has seen any of my old films, they're like, oh, I really wish I'd love to be on that kind of set. And I was like, yeah, I fucking wish you were there too, you know. And so for this one, we intentionally put together a whole video village area where Dave was also doing his DIT on the Puget system. But I sort of had an open invitation to folks that wanted to come by and hang out.
Yeah, it was. I would always be like transferred stuff with the headphones on, And then I would just turn around. There'd be like 5 new people looking over my shoulder, like watching everything. So it was fun.
It's always a good thing because I like to have these people at monitor that are fresh eyes. Because when you're the person creating it, or even if you're crew, you start to read the script, you start to get into it. That initial reaction disappears because you're just sort of jaded to what's happening. And so it's nice sometimes to have new people on set because I could just walk in and start to be social in the downtime that we have for everything and just go like, "What did you think of that take?" And the first response from everybody is like, "Oh my God, it's so amazing." And I go, "Okay, yeah. But what did you think about that take?" And then they're just like, "Oh, I didn't believe that this happened. And this sort of took me out of this little moment." And it's not like I'm going to do what they say, but it's just nice to see in the moment, like what is responding with folks and how they're doing it, because then I can make adjustments.
It's good perspective.
Yeah, man. It's really cool. Actually, we should do a podcast with it. One of the people that comes on all my sets is my mother. Believe it or not. Both my mom and my dad came to this one, which was cool. And, it's like, oh, cool, cute. He's his mom. No, my mom is actually a really important part of my film career because when I was a kid, she was the one that introduced me to Die Hard. She was the one that introduced me to Lethal Weapon. I love my dad, but he was like the Wizard of Oz kind of fucking guy. I hate the Wizard of Oz. I hate that fucking movie. So my mom and I would always be the two that would go watch, Bruce Willis, try to shoot his way in through a window, or Mel Gibson crying and putting a gun in his mouth.
Your mom made you sit down for that scene too?
Yeah.
My mom, when she had me watch when I was younger, she was like, "This is acting right here. If you want to do this, you have to know how to do this." I'm like, okay, so there's a lot of weight there, Mom, but all right.
I just imagine you ever since then just sitting in a room by yourself with like a fake gun and putting it in your mouth.
It's like it's just my fingers and I'm like just like flicking water in my eyes, looking in the mirror like I think I got it.
I missed you, babe.
Right. Meanwhile there's like Bugs Bunny playing. Like, yeah, I'm ready. My mom is actually really great. She's been great on sets with me, and when we were younger, she decided that she was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and she raised the 4 of us, which I think is such a great decision to make. And my dad is such a great dad. He's been involved with our family, and he's always been the one that goes to work. But I think not enough credit is given to a parent that decides that they're going to stay and raise children, especially today, because if they weren't around to raise us, I'd probably be an even bigger piece of shit than I am right now. So she always wanted to be a photographer, and she kind of gave that stuff up when she decided that she was going to be a decent human being and be a mom. And so once I got that career I got the ability to start shooting photographs, I would invite her onto my sets. And I said to her, like, you want to come hang out? She goes, yeah. One rule, though, I'm not your mother. I'm an assistant. And I was like, well, you're an old-ass assistant. she's like, no, I'm your assistant. Okay, cool. And so for years, whenever I was shooting stuff, I would always have my assistant Eileen there, and I would get some weird looks from the clients, like, who's this lady? And she's my assistant, chill. And so like her and Tony would sit over the monitor and go through photographs and cause a lot of trouble. But I remember, and this is actually a really great story about how it paid off. I did a job years ago for the Boston Phoenix. I was shooting those end of the world photographs that I post all the time. And it was the first time I had worked with these clients, specifically these clients. And they brought me on to the set, and they brought in a stylist that I had never worked with before. They brought in all the stuff that I had never done before. And they had put all this stress on me to pull it off without any planning. And I remember being really fucking frustrated. Like everything I was shooting looked like shit. And I knew it looked like shit. I knew it was terrible because I had 100 fucking people in my ears sort of going like, he has to be posed like this. And like, this has to happen and this has to happen. And so I was shooting this stuff and transferring this footage. And my mom was sitting at the computer looking at the stuff. And I walked over to her and I was just incredibly fucking frustrated. And I look over her shoulder and I go, what do you think? And she goes, it sucks. Everything you're shooting is terrible.
And I was like, I know. And I just put my head in my hand, and I go, I know it's fucking terrible. And she goes, you want my advice? And I go, yeah. And she goes, fuck them. Shoot however you want to shoot. The reason why you're here is because they hired you. The reason why you're here is because they like your look. So go in there and fucking forget anything that they're telling you and just shoot it however you would shoot it. And I went, okay. And I walked in the other room and I go, well, my mom told me that I could fucking do this, so suck my dick. And just went and took them and pulled them off the set and put them onto a wall and did all that stuff. And the stuff that I had shot was just fantastic. And I still post it and still do it. Single-handedly because I had her there to be able to just sort of cut through all that.
I go back to like what you're saying about who you have on set.
Yes.
You know, that energy and atmosphere has to be there, because when it gets to those moments where we're approaching the 15th hour or things are not working out, you have to know that at the end of the day, you can fall back on the positivity of people in the room, the fresh eyes, the fresh minds that are supportive and there to make this happen.
Yeah.
You know, and excited and eager about it, because something in that will take you a little bit further.
Yeah. And it's that communal thing. Like, you always hear directors go, it's a communal business, blah, blah. I mean, this is specifically what I'm talking about. And it isn't just that it's I have this experience with other people, not just my mother, that I have on these sets. That's why it's really important. Because at the end of the day, you have to make a movie for yourself. You have to have a story that you want to tell, and you have to be committed to that thing. But you're also making these things for other people to watch. And whether or not you're comfortable enough with yourself to admit that as a director, other people are going to watch this thing, and you kind of care what they fucking think. Yeah. And you kind of care whether or not they're actually getting what it is that you're trying to say. And so I think it's a smart thing to invite that around you without letting it take over. You know, you still have to be in control. You still have to run your stuff, but it's a tool, man. It's like having, like, you know, another set of lenses on set. It's like, it's another storytelling.
Well, it's nice too, because on your sets, there's definitely, like you're saying, that invitation to be able to come and, you know, like, I think every time I've been on set with you, I was like, hey man, you don't have to just hang out over here. If you want to go look at the monitor and, you know, check things out, you can. And that's awesome, because you're here and you're working and you're focused, excited about being there. But you, at the end of the day, everybody wants to fucking see what's happening. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone wants to go peek at the monitor, and sometimes sets have such a taboo thing where, like, the video village is just like zipped up little room where no one's allowed to go in there except. And so when you get a chance where it's invited like that, it's like, oh shit, you get to go peek and go, wow, fuck, so that's how they get. I can see what they're doing, but this is how movies end up looking like this here in the monitor because of what I'm watching happen on set. That's so cool. And then you know, because you're allowed to have that, to step away. Yeah. And for me, I had that experience when I got in. One of my friends, one of mine and Ian friends, Chris Myers, he's a producer. He's one of the Farley Brothers producers. And for a while, we were talking about doing some projects, and he actually invited me down to a couple of their shoots. Like, I was on Three Stooges and I was on Hall Pass, and I actually got to go down. I got flown down to Atlanta, and both Peter and Bobby were, like, super cool. They, like, totally welcomed us onto the sets, you know, and I got a set of headphones, and I got to go sit at the fucking monitor and just sort of watch how directing really works, because most of the stuff that you see online is all propaganda. It's like, oh my God, he's such a great guy to work with, and the fucking collaboration. And if you watch enough of these pieces, you start to see the formula for what it is. And also, no one's promoting a movie, and the actor's like, yeah, that guy, he fucking sucks. Buy a ticket. Come see this movie. She's a piece of shit. Buy the movie. Buy the movie. So I was fucking fascinated. Like for me, I was wearing the headset the whole time just to hear what the director would say to the actor, and like because that's like the shit that they don't teach you in film school. Like, you know, what am I supposed to say to the actor? You know what I mean? Like, early on, you're like, what the fuck? So I got to have that experience, and those guys are amazing as collaborators, and they literally invite in every shoot they do. They invite in their high school buddies. Their high school buddies are all, like, ushered in. It's a whole fucking experience for these guys. They come in, and every time they get put up in hotels, and they're extras in the background, and they play all this stuff, and it's wonderful. And then you see them on set literally turn into the boom op and go, and like seeing Peter talk to the boom op and be like, dude, what do you think of that? You know, and him being like, yeah. And so for me, I was able to witness that at their level, which was like, you know, big players were on these sets. And I was like, man, this
this atmosphere is what I want my movies to be like. This is fun. Like these guys they're hiding their stress really well. Like at one point when I went for Hall Pass, the producer brings me over to Peter, and Peter goes, "Hey, let's hang out. I'll walk you around. I'll show you the set." And they had reconstructed like basically Cape Cod in Atlanta. And so Peter's just like, "Hey, check out these houses," and he's walking me around. And he's showing me all these places. I'm like, "Dude, man, I know you got a shitload of work to do today.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this. This is so cool that you're walking me through here." He goes, "Oh yeah, great. I really appreciate that. But come hang out with us." And I was like, the idea that he took the time for fucking me, who I don't mean shit. You know what I mean? Like especially at that point, I didn't even have anything done, and he was walking me around. I was like, "Fuck, that's what I want my sets to be. That's what I want the work experience to be like." So, thank you to Chris, and thank you to Peter and Bobby for being such a great influence.
That totally translates to like this last shoot. I mean, like for me, one of the coolest parts was I think it was like the second day. We were all having lunch, and like there were no seats left, so I was just sitting by you and Kruta eating lunch. And like when you think about like one of the first sets that you're going to be on as like a PA or like, you know, someone who doesn't have a totally critical role, like you'd never imagine that you'd be sitting eating lunch with like the director and the DP and like hearing the conversation that you guys are having. But it was such like a welcoming environment, and everyone like just really wanted to be there. So it was super cool, and like, you know, looking at the monitor, like listening to what you guys are saying, it definitely translates like from that experience you had, you know, down the line to the crew.
Good. I'm sure our conversation was just like fart jokes and.
Yeah, I think it was mixing the Coke and all the Mexican food together. You know, Coca-Cola, not. I was gonna say,
Yeah, that's not. That got into some wild guess. Yeah. That's when you're just really excited about farting.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're doing it overnight, so
Right,
you know. But
I want to go back to something you mentioned about. You said how, you know, the things they don't teach you about how to direct actors, because I think it's also really important for as the actors to learn how to take direction, because we spend so much time focused on technique and blah 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 blah, all the jargon, but like no one teaches how to take direction. And I think it's probably hard to, because so many directors have different styles, but there's a through line. You know, there's a way to be present and just be able to be led. You know what I mean? And yeah, we have an idea what we think is right, but just to sit back and like, okay, cool, like you're steering the ship, but I'm here to execute whatever needs to be done. And seeing this on your sets, you know, and other sets that I've been on, when there's an actor that doesn't take direction well, it just slows everything down, and that creates stress for the director. And you can just watch it like it's like a crack in the windshield. You just watch it get bigger and bigger and bigger. But when you don't have that issue, when you have directors that know how to talk to the actor without full on saying, "You're sad in this moment, be sad, be mad," because then you just have actors making fucking emoji faces and not really performing.
right.
And then when you have actors who are willing to be directed, everything it's like a well-oiled machine. It just goes so well, and you can feel it in the room. Everyone is just in such a better mood, because there's nothing, like, I don't care how you slice it, when you have the actor on set who doesn't know their fucking lines, isn't taking direction, and then is performing like shit, and we're up for like, you know, the 10th, 11th take. Everyone in the room is like, "Oh my fucking god, come on, man, just fucking do it."
Yeah, and then that changes. You're right, man, because that changes. That anxiety just starts to rise, and as the person in the submarine, you start to get holes that are coming through in the submarine, and you're just sort of smiling, going, "Guys, we're not sinking."
Right.
You know, keep going.
Tut, looks like rain.
Yeah. What's interesting, Lance, because, you know, it's not often that I get to chat with actors on this podcast. What is your best acting experience that you've had so far?
So I would say there's definitely two, but I'll touch on one because it's from the short film we did this past summer in Texas, American Fish Trap. It was directed by a good friend of mine, Chase Parker. This would be the 5th short film I've done with him. He was an Emerson graduate, and I started out, honestly, I was actually going to give up acting, and he had an audition post up. Somebody recommended me. He had a short film that went to Cannes the year prior when he was a freshman in college. So I was like, okay, cool, fuck it, like let's check it out. We did that, and it was a small role, and it just kind of built it from there until this past summer I had the lead role, and I was playing a slave in the film. And I think the way that I like to do the work is quote unquote method. I fucking hate the term just because I feel like it turns into a fucking PR circus. But to be in a space where you are allowed to perform that way and you're allowed to live in that character, and when the director understands that's what works for you because you've done it with them in the past and they see your work and they see what the end result is, there's no judgment. And it's hard, especially with trying to embody something so fully and live it. There's moments of insecurity already because as an actor we're just fucking afraid that every choice we make is going to be dog shit. But when you have someone who supports that, the rest of the crew, the whole environment stays on the positive. You have people who will celebrate it, and it's like, okay, cool, thanks. Like, I don't need to be fucking patronized, but I mean, like, you know, I appreciate that everyone's respecting my work, that what I'm doing is a little strange. I'm barefoot in fucking West Texas for a whole week, and like, you know, my feet are bleeding, and people are like, oh my god, wow. I'm like, please don't fucking tweet about this, please. Like, I don't need. Let's not make it that thing. But it's just nice to have that respect, and then you come through the full work. It's emotional, it's deep. We have, you know, especially as an actor of color, you're playing, you know, you're in essence your ancestry, and it can get very emotional. There was a scene we did where Eddie Troy, the other lead, he has to rope me up and like beat me around. And the way we like to do the work is it's like Chinatown. You can't. Jack Nicholson can fake the smack all day long, but the shit doesn't work. Just fucking smack her, you know. So we just do it. He smacks me around, and afterwards we're doing the whole thing, and they drag me over and they rope me up, and everyone on set is super quiet. I don't think I've ever been around more white guilt in my fucking life. And I've never experienced people being so nice ever. But I was like, holy shit, like, Lance, do you need water or anything? I was like, nah, man, I'm pretty good. Like, you know, it's just the scene. We're good. But my buddy Eddie Troy, he comes over to me right after we cut, and we know like we got the take, we're good, and he's just blubbering, crying, and he just hugs me, and I'm already a fucking mess because it's such an emotional scene. I have to be there anyway, but he doesn't have to be. You know, he can just say fuck it and be mad and walk off and just like vent off that energy and come back like, hey man, it was great, right? You know, but the fact that you have that something that somebody who's willing to go that deep with their work with you, that it emotionally moves them, that you can have that kind of brotherhood, and that a director would be so open to your work as to allow you to explore this way, and the whole set follows his leadership to embrace it. I've never had an experience feel that safe.
Wow. And then, okay, so contrast that. What was it like being on Equalizer 2? Are you allowed to talk about
that was the shit. Yeah, I can talk about this, yeah. So it's funny, actually, because you walk onto these bigger sets, and I never get nervous, but I always get excited, which I think is a little scarier, because nerves remind you to mind your P's and Q's and be fucking quiet. Excitement has you like, oh my god, Denzil Washington! You know, so you have to know where to check yourself. But we get on set, and I walk in, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Denzil Washington. He's fucking tall in real life, wow. And he's loud as shit. And I was like, I wasn't expecting all this energy. Wow, this guy really commands the room, you know? And we get to doing the scenes where the first day was just sort of his coverage, and then the second day we get to do, in essence, my coverage. And so I was like, wow, holy shit, you kind of realizing that this is day 2 on fucking Equalizer 2, and I'm here with Antoine Fuqua, who directed Training Day, and here's Denzil Washington, who got an Oscar for Training Day, and we're doing my coverage tonight? And the scene that we had, I originally had auditioned, I read for the lead, and then when they brought me back, they said, oh, they cast that out of LA, but we've got a one-liner for you, which is such a kick in the balls, because you're like, man, I just did fucking 4 pages of dialogue. Like, I think you got an idea of what I can do. Let's just do it. But, you know, you have to eat your pride and just go do it, which I'm glad I did.
Right.
Because when I get the call back and then later to do the scene, there was a second scene. And I remember in the audition, Antoine Fuqua goes, okay, let's do the next scene. And I'm pissing myself. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about next scene? And I'm like, please tell me Angela didn't just not give me the fucking slides. So we do it, and it's just improvised. So when we get on the day, Fuqua says, you know, he's like, that was great, but when the day comes, I just need you to fucking cry. I was like, oh, okay, great. So no pressure, just, you know, one of my favorite directors, and probably arguably one of the best actors alive right now, and the only demand is that I be completely fucking blubbering. Cool, awesome. Mel Gibson time.
Yeah.
And so there I am with the fucking gun in my mouth and Bugs Bunny in the background. But I'm doing this scene, and it's again, what I like to do the work is to fully dive in. And my father always raised us that, you know, as a kid, he was like, you know, I don't know, this is going to sound fucked up like bad parenting, but I would say children are to be seen and not heard. And so I kind of treat that when I'm on set that way, is that I'm here, I stay in my space, I stay in my character. When you need me, you know, I'm easy to get a hold of, I'm right there. So in this essence, with such an emotional moment, I stay in that space. So I'm on set while everyone's moving around and I'm just here crying, which makes me feel like a total bitch because I'm like, man, Antoine Fuqua did Southpaw and I'm sitting here crying. I feel like the biggest bitch in the room. But you have this moment, you go through it. I'm doing all this improvisation with Denzil Washington because it's, you know, it's not a scripted moment per se. And he just free flows with everything with me.
So cool.
And we're laughing and joking. And, you know, there was one moment where he had put this bowl of chips in my lap, which out of context makes no fucking sense, but it makes sense in what we did. And so, you know, like, it's just a rehearsal, and then he walks away, he goes to come back, and I just started eating the chips. Like, I thought it would be funny. I was just hoping, like, one of the extras or, like, one of the other guys would see it, and I'd get a little chuckle, like, yeah, my guy, you got it. And Denzil Washington turns around, he starts laughing, he's like, oh, he's ready to work, he's ready to act. And I was like, woo! Denzil Washington thinks I'm ready to act? But then the fast forward, after we do the whole scene, and all this shit to it, the fact that, you know, like, none of it's scripted, and so you're improvising this emotional moment with somebody who you have to absolutely show up and go toe-to-toe with. You can't shrink in that moment. And Denzil Washington sits on the couch, and I'm like, fuck, man, if there's ever a moment to be able to just say thank you and not look like a pretentious prick trying to get a fucking Instagram selfie with the guy, this is the moment. So I looked over to him, and I was like, hey, Mr. Washington, thank you so much for just being available in the moment with me and playing, since we didn't have any dialogue to really run with. And he reaches over, he shakes my hand, and then somebody was like, hey, D, and they start talking to him. I'm like, oh, fuck, Lance, that's right. Mind your P's and Q's, be seen, not heard. So I go to, like, back to my little space, and Denzil holds my hand still. I'm like, oh, okay. Denzil Washington uses a lot of cocoa butter. He's got some soft hands, son. And so they talk to me. He's like, okay, yeah. And he's like, what were you saying? I'm like, oh, shit, I've got Denzil Washington's undivided attention right now. Wow. So I reiterate to him, and I told him, I said, because with this scene, what it requires, and come on, man, it's with who I'm working with here today, with you guys. I was worried that this was going to be really difficult. I wouldn't be able to perform. And he said, well, you know why that is, right? I said, no, Denzil Washington, why is that? He says, well, it's expectation, because we think we're never wrong. And I said, holy shit, wow, he's right. It's sometimes so simple as that. And I think any actor could have given me that advice, and it would have hit just as well. But it's you go into this thing, and you're going, oh my God, I'm about to work with so-and-so. Oh man, we're doing this feature film with Mike Pecci, and I can't wait. His movies have been doing so good. And you walk on set, and you have all this other shit, all this stuff built up. And it's just as simple as just going, man, just let all that go.
Yeah.
Just do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's rad, dude. What a great experience,
Yeah.
huh?
That's really cool.
Yeah, man.
And what was Fuqua like?
Fuqua is probably one of the strongest leaders and most professional directors I've ever been around.
Really?
I mean, everyone on set refers to him as sir. He refers right back and such. It almost has like a sort of undercurrent of feeling very militant, where there's just that sort of very pressed and prestige respect. Even after our first day of doing everyone else's coverage, and I go to the elevator just to go down the fucking stairs, and next to Fuqua comes over, and it's just him, myself, and I think maybe his assistant or somebody there with him. And he was like, good stuff today. I'm like, oh, thank you, Mr. Fuqua, I appreciate it. And he goes, tomorrow's a big day, right? Yes, sir, I do. Yeah, we're putting you on camera, so I need you to fucking cry. And he just gets on the elevator, and I was like, I think I should let Mr. Fuqua get on the elevator by himself. But it was such a cool vibe, and I think even more to that, doing the two scenes and doing all the crying, and when you do that, especially with moments like that, I think as actors, that crying gets put on such a high pedestal, because one, it's not as easy to get into that space mentally, but then once you do get there, it's even harder to get out of it. So it's nice to always have directors that come over and will just show you love. I don't need to be fucking jerked off about what I did, but if you come over and want to give me a hug or pat me on the back, or just come for a second and be like, hey, good stuff, that was great. We got what we needed. Thank you. And he would do that. And then when in another case we are doing a lot of action is happening and I'm just reacting to it. Again, no dialogue, so I'm just willy-nilly improv. Like if ever a fucking actor was trying to get a line in the movie, this was the picture perfect scenario. I'm just like yelling and shouting shit, and Antoine Fuqua comes out of the video village at one point and he's laughing, he's quoting something I said, and I was like, oh shit, am I quotable, bro? Like, Antoine, training day guys quoting my shit? Wow. And so we're laughing and joking about it. And I said, hey, man, I'm just, the resident punk ass from Boston. Like, I'm always getting my ass kicked or dying in movies or something like this. So, at this point, I'm ready to act like a total pussy on camera. I've got this down pat. And he just goes, nah, man, you're just a fucking great actor. And he comes over, daps me up, and walked away. And I was like, wow, man, do we need to have our fucking gold star and a kiss on the cheek every time we do something? Absolutely not. But when it's somebody that you really look up to and you've admired their work from a young age to as an adult now, where you're trying to, not want to say break big as an actor, but to where you're trying to find respect for yourself in the work, to where you're comfortable proclaiming this as your job. And somebody of this caliber just says, hey, man, good job.
Yeah.
It has a lot of value. But you have to do the work and get to that moment so that you can appreciate what it means to even be present for that.
It's awesome, man. And there's something...
Sorry, those are long stories.
No, that's a fantastic
Wonderful.
Story, man. Like, it's
Really awesome.
it's not every day that people get to experience that, but B, people get to listen about that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated whenever I show up, and it's rare. Whenever I show up on like a real set, whenever I show up on someone else's set, let me change that. I'm always fascinated that, like, with all the bells and whistles, with all the bullshit, whether it's millions of dollars, it still sort of just all comes down to like right around the camera.
Yeah.
It's such a wild thing to watch, because it's like, at the end of the day, it's still, you have the camera guy, whether it's the DP or a camera operator, and if it's a director that likes to be right there, then he's right there. But it always just comes around this little space. And even on our set, I was saying it's like being at war, where like you have all these different stages before you get to the front line. So you have like Video Village, or you'll have like the makeup room. Like, one of my favorite things to do on sets, if I've done all my work and you have that time where everybody goes, hey, can you just please walk the fuck out of here so we can do our job?
Yeah.
And you go, okay. And so I like to walk through, and it's so cool. Like, you go into like the makeup room, and usually the makeup room typically is pretty catty. Typically there's a whole lot of like funny sort of weird shit going on. If you have like a great makeup artist, great wardrobe people, and Brie Welsh was on this one. She's a fucking riot. So like, you go in there, and that's usually where the actors are chilling most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fun. And then you sort of walk out of that space, you sort of walk through the production design space, or like the prop set dressing space. And most of the time, those people are just like up all fucking night. They're the unsung heroes, by the way, of most movies, because most of the time they're told to do shit without time to do it. It's like, can you set dress this entire place? Can you unload that whole fucking truck? And I need to be on set tomorrow at like 5 o'clock. So you guys need to be here at like noon. And I need you here the whole fucking shoot, because you guys have access to all the props and stuff. So they're usually strung out on like fucking like caffeine and running
Coke
around.
and Mexican food day?
Yeah,
Right.
Coke and Mexican food.
Yeah.
But they're usually my favorite fucking people. And then Larry is like, he always looks like an old Teddy Ruxpin doll. Like, he's just, his hair is all pulled out. There's some great shots that Gina took on set of him just looking like a mess, trying to get everything pulled together.
Hard at work.
Yeah, so you get out of like production design, so all these like little camps, and then you go over and you hang out with the sound team, and it's usually like a 2 or 3 man crew. Some of my favorite people to hang out with, who hear everything on set. Everything, because they have a boom mic, they have like all that stuff. So if you ever have shit to say about the sound team, make sure that you're not around an actor when you say it, because they hear absolutely everything.
That's actually makes me think of yesterday. I had an experience on set that goes along with this. I was gonna say, when you think about you as the director walking through, that when you're on set, and I'd say this one, I think for actors, but especially for people doing background, be fucking mindful. Yesterday, we're on set, we're between the take. A kid comes over to me and he goes, "Hey man, can I follow you on Instagram?" I'm like, this kid has no idea. Like, I'm gonna fucking go drive Uber tonight when I get out of here. Like, I'm not anybody. And I said, yeah, sure, man, of course. Like, yeah. So we exchanged, and he goes, it's just, thank you. It's great to just connect with people that have made it. And I was like, wow, fuck. Like, I didn't even have the heart to correct him. I was like, I'm still not shit, but thank you.
Yeah.
But then there was a girl who was standing next to me, and I think she hears this. another kid now who I was chatting with throughout the night is asking I think it was like the second unit director. Somebody, she's like kind of corralling the extras. And he says, is it okay if I go this way around the couch instead of that way? That way I don't get in their path, which myself and the other actors. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. So the girl who's now heard this whole, oh, you're somebody that made it thing, is I think finding this moment where she wants to try to like hubnub a little bit. And she's like, oh, I hate when extras ask dumb questions like that on set. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't understand. She goes, oh, when I do background, I never ask any questions. I'm like, ooh, get you a fucking Oscar. Wow. Yeah. And I tell her, well, I'm going to be honest with you. It's the only dumb, like I just say, the only dumb question is when you don't ask. And that's a fucking great question, because if he gets in our way, it slows us down. We don't hit our mark on time. That delays the other actor's moment from the dialogue to when we're supposed to enter the scene, and it's a fucking weird moment in the shot. It's a perfect fucking question to ask. And it's just like, I think we'll lose sight of the fact that we're here to do this job, and we want to try to be such an opportunist that we people will make these comments or try to rub elbows in the wrong way. And it's like, don't be self-serving.
Exactly.
You're here, be on the set, be a part of this. And at the end of the day, you could have been home, not doing shit, watching fucking Netflix, eating Doritos, and being bitter about how you didn't book the audition you had last week. You're on a set, man. Like, we're getting to do what we want to do. Just be grateful for that shit and ride the wave.
Yeah, and also, you're right. Watch what you fucking say.
Yeah. It's not hard to not be a fucking decent human being.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, as a director, I'll talk to anybody until I get into a situation in which whatever fucking union affiliate will keep me from doing so. Yeah. But I will talk to any of the extras and anybody, because they're people. Mm-hmm. And I often, like, one of my favorite things is going into the craft services room when everybody's sort of sitting around having dinner. And just standing there and just looking at all these folks that are coming together for this. And I love to walk around and talk to everybody because they're literally taking time out of their fucking lives to come and do this sort of stuff. So just be fucking cool, like be chill, be cool. And I think that's the best way to continue to get hired.
Yeah, because making remarks like that or being an asshole, like, I don't understand what the logic is. Like, you think like that's gonna come off fucking cool, and like now you're gonna get bumped up for something. Like that's never gonna be the case.
No, and it's always gonna kick in. Like, I won't name names, but I was when I was doing 12 Cam, I had an extra come up to me, and I'm in the middle of doing a shoot. I'm in the middle of doing shit, and he comes over to me and he's just like, "Hey, look, I really appreciate the gig," and I go, "Fuck yeah, man, awesome." Like, I'm happy to have you here. And he goes, yeah, I'm just having a really rough time with my life and with what's going on. And I go, I have to sort of take my brain out of directing and just sort of look at him like another human being and be like, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's really tough. He's like, yeah, I have no money in my bank account. And I was like, cool. Why are you telling me this right now? And he's like, well, it would be nice if I had some money in my bank account. It'd be nice if I had, like just a little bit more money, maybe some money for like gas or some travel and shit. And I was just like, oh, so you're interrupting me right now because you want to renegotiate how much money you're making on this thing?
Trying to fucking fleece you right now?
Right now? Like, this is a thing that's going on right now? It's like, and I just walked away from him. I was like, look, we'll figure it out. We'll talk later. And I walked over to the assistant director. I'm like, let's shoot him out and get him the fuck out of here right now.
Yeah. Just
because I don't, like, he doesn't, obviously he's not here because he wants to be here. Mm-hmm. Obviously he's here for other reasons, but, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't fucking
that
need
mindset that. Is you have extras, especially in holding. They're talking, and it's a lot of a gripe session in that room, and you have that guy that's putting that poison in the ether, and next thing you know, more people are thinking that. The next thing you have, and this is a whole other fucking thing, but it's people that get on set and are so focused on when are we getting paid for this? Oh, are we going overtime? Well, what time is lunch? Well, this. I see actors do this shit all the time, and I'm like, you know what? Like, there was an actor recently on a set who was there. It was their first time doing film.
Yeah.
Came from some theater background, and that's what the dialogue is all day. Is if we go overtime, then what rate do we get now? How does this change? Well, are we doing lunch? Or what time's dinner? What time are we gonna wrap? Because we've been here for. Who gives a fuck? Like, to me, if we have 15 hours, and someone's like, hey, Lance, we gotta just do one more shot, man. You don't mind? I'm like, motherfucker, we could be here for 2 more hours. Like, this is what I want to do. Yeah. Absolutely. Who gives a fuck? Like, we're gonna eat. Well, trust me, everyone here is hungry. Everyone here is tired. Everyone has someone to go home to, or kids, or some other shit they gotta take care of. You're not fucking special or alone in that.
Yeah.
Just be here and appreciate the fact that we're here doing this.
Yeah, man. And to reiterate that, if he had come over to me and been like, hey, why did you move the camera this way? Or like, why why are you blocking this way? I would have been totally happy to be like, here's what it is, and this is why we're doing it. So I think that if you are an extra, and I think if you are someone that's new to the set, I don't think you should be afraid. I think you should have some common fucking sense, and be able to read the room and go like, this is when I should say something, this is when I shouldn't say something. But then, I know there's a lot of other filmmakers that run their sets differently, but the way I run my set, you can come and talk to me. Yeah. That's not a big deal. I'm not a fucking king. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a lot of that runs rampant in this business where it's like, I'm in charge now. Like, this is my fucking time. This is my moment to fucking lord over all these fucking people. Like, I don't get that. Yeah. Like, literally, I'm calling you and thanking you for fucking coming down and working on this thing. Like in every position is incredibly important. Every position's important. Like, if Dave doesn't fucking log his shit right, and if stuff doesn't happen, I'll get in the edit room and we could potentially lose thousands of dollars worth of shit just because one clip goes missing. Yeah. And so like everybody is important on that set. And I think that it goes both ways. I think that actors and new PAs and people on set should just be aware and understanding of that. But I think that directors and people at the top of the line should also check themselves a bit. Yeah. Because, I come from a business. I used to house paint. I used to be an airplane mechanic. I used to fucking do all that stuff. And that's crew mentality. And you go and you wake up at 6 o'clock in the fucking morning. You climb into a fucking truck. You have your little bag fucking lunch and you get pulled off and you're climbing a ladder on the side of the house and you're painting and scraping and then you're getting back in there again. It's the same game. The only difference is that there isn't any fucking ego there. It's only in filmmaking that people are like, where's craft services? Where's my fucking brisket lunch? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, when do we get overtime? When do we get all this stuff? It's like, only in this business do you get all these wonderful fucking things. Seriously. So,
and it's a choice to allow yourself to get spoiled by certain things and become pretentious about it. Yeah. If the fucking PA brings you your coffee, you don't say, oh, this doesn't have cream in it. Well, dude, who gives a fuck? Take the coffee. Hey, thank you so much. Then take your ass over later when you have a moment and get your own fucking coffee. If the PA sees it and feels bad, hey man, no big deal. I had cream in it. But I don't care, man. It's not a big deal. I just got it myself. Don't worry about it. Yeah. I'm working hard already.
And do it because you're a good person. Yeah, but even if you're not a good fucking person, and even if you're someone that is like out for your fucking career, then also understand that PA is probably going to be your fucking director in 2 years.
Yeah, that's another thing. There was the feature I'm working on now, the director was the second cam for a studio feature that was here in Boston. And one of the kids that got cast in this was cast in that solely because he had like a one line in that thing. And he was joking about how like they didn't even use his coverage and they just basically saw the back of his head. And the director laughed and he said, I actually remembered you from that. This is why I cast you, because I felt bad. We only saw the back of your head. And when you came in for this, I was like, oh, this would be a great opportunity to give this kid something else, And I said, see, that's the thing. If he would have been on that set and acted like an asshole, then he comes into audition and you see this guy, you might go, man, that guy looks familiar. The director knows, nope. And at whatever time and ability you put into preparing that audition doesn't mean shit, because the director remembers like, I'm definitely not working with that kid.
Yep. Yep. Because, when you're casting, and I love how on the tangent that we've got off on this, I think we're going on a good spot. Casting is such a fucking hard thing from our end of the couch and your end of the couch. You know what I mean? Like, I can't fucking imagine being on that end of the couch. The whole, like, my product is myself, my product is my face, my product is who I am, and then I have to go in for this stuff. And then on the other end of the couch, it's mostly in commercials. It's like I'm buying fucking couches. You know what I mean? Like, it's down to that same level of like, okay, I need to fit this couch in the room. It needs to be a certain color. It needs to have a certain fucking height. It needs to be all this stuff. So, like, bring them through. You know what I mean? And I equated to that because when I had to buy couches, it was as laborious as casting can be, where you're just sort of looking at these superficial fucking things and you're casting for that. I hate casting. I hate casting sessions. I really do.
It's funny because there are so many times where you have to learn, one, to just let it go after the audition, because there's so much that's out of your control. Yeah. You could come in and be a rock star. I think especially for ladies, this is where I'm gonna go with this. I think hits for them a lot more. You're a rock star in your audition. It's fantastic. They love everything you're doing. you're up for the supporting role, but you're 5'9" and Tom Cruise is 5'6",
Yeah.
and that's not gonna look as good on camera, so we're not gonna use you.
Yeah.
Or you're really good, but this girl has like 500,000 followers on Instagram. Half of those people would buy a ticket probably. That's a pretty good chunk back into our budget. Gonna go with her instead. And it's those things that just get stacked against you to where like you literally just have to go in, do the best thing you did, and leave and fuck it.
Yeah.
And then hope that, again, you have maybe the person that was behind the camera during the audition one day direct something or is in charge of casting next time, or that the casting director just loves what you did and brings you back in, or that director sees you and is like, hey, you weren't right for this, but like I got something else.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you just you ride the wave and just go until it's a no.
That's a great way to be, man, because it's there are so many elements just to get going. There are so many elements that weigh against a project. And then when you get down to like finally getting the money, finally getting everything that you need there, and then you're as directors arguing for both sides of it, going like, I need this person, I love this fucking person, they're great. And the producer says like, if you get that fucking person, then we have like $4 million less. And you're just sort of like, okay, what do I do? You know what I mean? So like it's the whole thing. It's the whole fucking system. And at the end of the day, it's all about who the audience wants to look at.
This is, I think, where the conversation goes into as an actor, if you want to be lead or supporting. Because we talked about this before, where as the leading man or leading woman, you carry this movie as terms of marketing and everything that happens outside of the performance. And I think that's a lot of weight to have, But we have to understand that and appreciate it before we're getting to the casting process, because you can't go into it so irritable and pissy if you don't get it. You got to understand that there's that other part of the business that exists, and that there might be who knows how many factors for why somebody else was just a better fit for it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because eventually you'll be the guy or guy or girl where they're going, we got to get so-and-so because that really bumps up this budget if we get them. And you're like, wow, fuck, I'm that person now. Yeah.
And it's got to be tough though, because at the end of the day, you're expecting people to come in with a personality. You're expecting people to come in physically to represent themselves physically, right. And that, as a director, I can hide behind my work. So like if someone's like, I didn't like that fucking movie, I could still go to the grocery store.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? And not be judged on what it is. So I have the utmost respect for actors, because I need them as much as I need a camera, if not more than I need a camera.
It's funny to think that, just like fucking, even like Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, like I don't even know who the director was on that. But Ryan Reynolds can't wear green anymore ever in his life. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's just like that's all on you.
Exactly. And most of the time, that's the deal. Like, Bruce Willis movies. Bruce Willis movies. It's like, cool. How many people know that Richard Donner directed fucking Lethal Weapon?
Yeah.
Unless you're a fucking nerd in the business, the average Joe doesn't know that the same guy that directed Lethal Weapon also directed The Goonies. Like, they just don't fucking put those pieces together.
Well, this is where, too, I think we have to inundate ourselves with this, doing things like this, like listen to the podcasts, watch the interviews. There's so much out there. Hollywood Reporter has the Roundtable.
Yeah, they're good.
Hollywood Reporter has the Award Shatter podcast. There's all types of different things out there for you to listen to these people that have quote unquote made it, or that we have admired from childhood, that you can get a chance to hear them share the war stories or the glamour and the hard stuff, and understand more and connect those dots. Like you watch, for example, like I'm just use the Roundtable as a great example. You watch the Directors Roundtable, and you go, oh shit, so and so also directed this movie over here. I didn't know that. And you hear them talk about things, or hear them talk about their casting process, hear them go on, and you get to understand this business more and more until eventually you are feeling like I'm like a fucking human IMDb now. I know this shit. And there's something in that I think absolutely goes back into those 10,000 hours. It's not 10,000 hours of you being on set, actually physically acting. It's not that. It's the 10,000 hours of going through the process, learning it, listening to things, reading things. You don't need to go check the boxes in college to be fucking great at what you do. But you do have to put the work in somewhere if you're going to do that. If you can, if you have it available to go and get the education, by all means, fucking do it, man. If I had that opportunity to go to film school right now or acting school, I'm doing it. But I didn't have that opportunity, so you have to then go, okay, well, how can I facilitate the education on my own? Because I can't just rely on that. I think I'm good at this. You got to find out a way to grow constantly so that when the opportunities do come, you're a professional from day one.
I think that's a good place to end it, Lance.
Boom.
Boom. That was good.
That was nice.
That was good.
Dave, can you talk less next time, please?
Yes. No, honestly, I was
Hello.
so just like an audience member, like just in awe of this conversation. It was so great, and
Thank you, man.
especially after that, like I feel like a big part of that 10,000 hours as someone who's just starting them is like demystifying everything, and just being in real situations and real scenarios.
Yeah.
And just getting comfortable with it. And this is, I mean, this right here is like an hour down, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy that it does that for you, man. And that time in, you should love it. Like that 10,000 hours ends up becoming the rest of your fucking life.
Right.
Like once you get through that 10,000 hours or whatever it takes, you then come to realize this is the fucking job. Like more of my job is all of that than it actually is directing.
Yeah.
So you gotta love that shit.
Absolutely.
You have to. And you have to be in love with hanging out with folks. You have to be in love with like talking to people. And I cannot imagine being an introvert and being scared of people and then directing movies. I just don't know how that works. Thankfully, it's not my way. But thank you for chatting with us, Lance.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
I appreciate it, man. And thank you, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, everybody listening. I hope that you got something. Hopefully, you learned a little something from it. Hopefully, we sounded not like arrogant shits.
I was just trying to sound like Richard Armitage the whole time. And, if you play this back and I nailed it, then I feel good.
So I appreciate you guys listening. That concludes this episode of In Love with the Process. We'll probably bang out a couple more. I want to try to get some done before I end up having to go and do the pitching and the pushing of this new movie. Keep following me at Mike Pecci on Instagram for updates on this film that we talk so much about that you guys, I can't really tell you what it's called yet. It's such a dick move. So follow me on Mike Pecci at Instagram. Also check us out at McFarlaneandPesci.com for other new stuff that we're working on. Ian's amazing new film that he's doing, The Godfather's a Hardcore. Yeah, I appreciate you guys listening, and I love you. All right, so let me do some reads for the sponsors. First up is our my favorite sponsor, the guys that have stuck behind me for the past couple of years, and they continue to help support not only this podcast, but also we're a main supporter on the new film. Puget Systems. Are you looking to make that switch from PC to Mac? Are you tired of those bloated Apple prices? Go to PugetSystems.com and check out their custom PC options for video editing. Literally, you can go over to the website and do sort of a pull down and choose the kind of work that you do, and they'll suggest a base package that they make for that. But then these guys are completely approachable. You can actually sit down and talk to them about what it is that you specifically do, and they'll build you out a custom system. We have two systems that we run nonstop at the McFarlane and Pecci offices. They're actually running today. And the dudes from Puget built us a special digital transfer station for on set on this last film that Dave was on, right? You were using it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And the guys were actually there helping too the second day, which was really, really awesome. So they showed me all the ins and outs and everything.
Nice. And this is the first time that I've actually had, which I loved, this is the first time that I've actually had an edit system on set, and it was super cool. It was like in this creepy fucking house. You'd actually come off of the shoot, haze and smoke in this room, and then you'd walk into this other super creepy room, and there bathed in like monitor light was Dave. So what were you doing? You were syncing up footage and
I was transferring everything over, throwing it into Premiere, logging everything, syncing it up, and it was cool because as we really got going, I would be watching stuff like 10 minutes after you guys just shot it. So it was like the turnaround was super quick. It was great.
It was great for a lot of the crew too, because they could actually stand over a shoulder and see how shots were cutting together. And the difference between doing that on my standard little my little laptop that I have, is that we were shooting at 4K, and so we were able to see all this stuff real time. We were actually putting it through to our AZO 4K monitor that we'll talk about in a second. So we were able to see all that, and so the DP was able to come in to make sure that the lighting had some sort of continuity, and then most of our other team could come in and see performances and stuff. So it was really cool. The dudes from Puget are, I think they're going to get into building these data transfer things. It actually came in like a little Pelican case. It was like super easy to set up. So if you guys are nerds about that shit, go to PugetSystems.com, check them out. I have nothing but amazing things to say about them. And with all the money that I saved on buying my edit systems, I was able to make a movie. So go to PugetSystems.com. Okay, so next up, Rule Busting Camera. Are you looking to rent equipment for your new film? I got a corporate job that requires better gear than the stuff that you own. Then go see the guys from Rule, and they will introduce you to some of the sweetest new stuff that you can play with. They helped me out big time on the new film, and whether it's with renting gear and getting the new equipment, or actually letting me go hang out at their brand new offices out here in Newton, actually, and shooting special effects plates for the film. We actually went in and tested out some of their brand new anamorphics that they have. I think they have the Koa anamorphics, anamorphic lenses, by the way. And we went in and shot all sorts of different flares that we're going to composite and post and make look cool. Not like those J.J. Abrams flares, but like cool flares that look natural flares, you know. So anyway, Rule Boston Camera, definitely check them out. They're my favorite place to rent from. All right. AZO monitors. So at McFarland Pecci, we just got our hands on the new AZO CG318 4K monitor. This thing is gorgeous. It's a self-calibrating monitor that when you set it up in whatever space you're in, it sort of takes readings of the room and the lighting and will set the colors on your monitor to be perfect and true every time. We are, I think Tony right now is actually in there coloring the new stuff from Bose and Better Sound sessions that we shot. And if you've seen previous episodes of that, you'll see that I go fucking crazy with color on those things. They're fucking batshit. And it's really important for us when we're in post to have a monitor that is accurately displaying what you at home are going to see, because we can easily get off on a tirade that looks like shit. So definitely, if you are looking for the best of the best, AZO. Go to azo.com, check out the new 4K monitors. Thanks, guys. So the last plug I'm going to do, obviously, is for McFarland and Pecci. I'm going to do a little hometown plug. Go to McFarlandandPecci.com to check out the latest stuff that Ian and I have been working on. Ian has been killing it with his new film, The Godfathers of Hardcore. If you guys haven't heard about this, it's this amazing piece on the band Agnostic Front, one of the godfathers of the hardcore music scene out of New York City. And it isn't just a music doc. A lot of folks think it's just like a standard rock doc. It's actually this really touching piece on aging. And this is really interesting look at artists who have created what their whole vibe is back when they were kids and teenagers, and how they develop as they get older. It's an amazing piece. He's been running the festival circuit with it, with sold out screenings and standing ovations. Next week, if you're here in the city, and hopefully this podcast will come out quick, Dave. Next week, I think next Saturday on the 28th, Ian is going to be having the first screening that we have here in Boston. So if you want a free ticket, Dave, you should probably ask Ian. If you want a free ticket, you should probably ask Ian. But it's screening at the Brattle on the 28th. So check that out. Follow Ian on Instagram. I think it's Ian_McFarland. If you want to know more about what's going on with the Godfathers of Hardcore, and go to McFarlandandPecci.com to see all the cool shit that we've been working on. And that is the easiest place to hire me. Please hire me, because I have no fucking money right now. Thank you. So I think that's it for this episode. We're going to continue this because I got these guys here. We'll do a second episode. We'll get even further into the production on this new film, title of which I cannot tell you. I know it's fucking frustrating, but I know it's frustrating that I can't tell you what the title is either. So you're just going to have to live with that. So thanks for listening, guys. And maybe these will come out more frequently. Maybe they won't. You don't fucking pay me. What's it matter? Okay, I'll see you later. Bye.